Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for all the viewers who have joined us today for this fireside chat on improving customer experience using artificial intelligence and machine learning. Myself, I am Krishnan Jayaraman, Vice President, Business Head for Data and Analytics and RPA at Aspire Systems. Today, I also have Mr. Krish Lakshminarayanan, who is Vice President, Digital Engineering and Advanced Analytics at Dine Brands, USA. Once again, the topic is so interesting, artificial intelligence. Right? Artificial intelligence can be implemented for many use cases across various domains, various businesses, and across various use cases. But when you see specifically, customer experience plays a very vital role. When you say customer experience, the end user experience is what we are talking today in terms of how the customer can relate to the product or to the service that is offered by an organization, and how AML are in terms of analytics helping organization to improve their customer experience. And today our conversation is going to be more towards how this can happen. And Krish, from your point of view, what is your viewpoint with regards to how AML is playing a pivotal role in improving customer experience?
Great question. So let me start with, I think you mentioned a couple of times AI ML. So I want to make sure that there's a distinction between these two. I don't want to bore folks, but a simplistic definition of what AI is, we are attempting to create computer programs which will perform tasks which normally are being performed by humans. That's a simplistic definition, right? Now, it could be, you think of something artificial intelligence or machine learning, you can think about, mundane, routine, repetitive tasks, but it can also be intelligent in terms of pattern recognition, facial recognition, or it could be reasoning, right? There are multiple intelligent, quote unquote, algorithms can also be automated, just as how a human mind will think. Now, coming back to this AI and ML distinction, AI is this umbrella of terms where you have multiple technologies like NLP, as in natural language processing, deep learning, and one of the components of AI is ML, machine learning. So I just want to call out the distinction.
Yes.
The other thing that comes to my mind again when we talk about AI is how data and AI is kind of inseparable, right? Because if you think about huge corporates, they generate a lot of data, and they also they create a lot of data. So they have a huge, humongous data set. Now, the value of the data can be realized only by using AI. So that's the dependency of the AI on data. Now, on the other hand, AI is basically meaningless if there is no rich data behind it, right? Clean data, consistent data, and then a variety of data attributes is useful to train the data set and again retrain, and the accuracy and all that. You need a richer data set. So one depends on the other.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty interesting relationship between data and
yeah, you are right. I in fact remember many of the customers approach and then ask us, I have humongous volume of data, but I don't make use of data, these data in an appropriate way. So can you develop some analytics on top of this data? In some cases, this model applies where you have large volume of data and then you develop some AI or predictive analytics on top of it, typically like in this case of a factory floor or a machinery data, IoT data. But I always recommend customers who are on the customer experience side of it, end user experience side of it, to first define what is the use case that they want to implement, and then go back to the data that they have, which is a right to left kind of an approach, where they can first identify the use case and then go back within their enterprise or from their external source of information. what data will cater an answer to that particular use case, and then work towards developing an AML or the predictive analytics or statistics of whatever that you just said, and then roll it out to the business for consumption. What's your take on this?
Use cases are always a good place, but I would actually start a slightly higher level, thinking about your corporates. What's the corporate strategy with respect to customer experience? So that's the definition that we want. Because as technologies, we tend to bring technical solutions first. Okay, I can build this to a problem may not even exist, right? But we come up with some technology solutions. So I think we would first, from a corporate level, define a strategy as to what a customer experience should look like. That's one. And then you also need your customer journey map, various interactions, engagements, what we call touch points, right? Various engagement and touch points. So that's the second level. Third is that's when AI comes and it says, okay, these various touch points, which one should I make the experience better? Okay, in this specific, suppose let's say I'm intervening a website interaction. Is that the right place which will give them better experience? So I think the focus is always on giving better customer experience. Finally, again, you'll always do a baseline of key metrics before you launch a program. Keep measuring it on and off, because as you know, you need to train models till you get the level of accuracy. You may need to constantly revisit your model, your algorithm. So always measuring your KPIs is how I will say. So 4 steps, I think, just to recap: have a corporate strategy around your customer experience, have a customer journey roadmap of sorts, and then your AI at various interaction points, and of course you're capturing KPIs as a measuring mechanism, feedback loop sort of.
That also reminds me, Krish, that this is unlike any traditional development project. AI is not something like you fill it, shut it, and then forget it, and then it runs on its own forever and ever. I think AI, or in fact, for that matter, any analytics, even be it text or a number based, or any kind of relational data that you deal with, or be it image or anything, needs to be constantly monitored, needs to be constantly pruned, needs to be constantly checked for its accuracy and whether it is yielding the right result as it was yielding when it was first developed. And the industry average says anywhere between 90 to 95% of accuracy is a very good measure to cross check whether you are at the right stage of, because there is never called 100% accuracy in anything that you do, for that matter. Yeah, right. So that applies even for AI. So the developers have to try multiple statistical models, and then whichever fits the particular use case, and then whichever gives the higher accuracy needs to be considered. And also over a period of time, as it keeps running and learning, whichever gives the higher accuracy continues to be the best model that fits the purpose.
That's right.
Many businesses don't see AI just as a pure IT project. In fact, they have started imbibing AI as a culture, as a practice which they need to adopt. Some of the surveys show that it doesn't being treated just as an IT project. Business users or application owners or even CXOs are trying to learn AI, at least to the to the basic level, and they are getting trained so that they have the experience of the industry. They know the end users requirement, and so by adopting AI, it becomes easy. Like you can apply a self-service analytics kind of a platform, which can help the business themselves to kind of do their basic analytics by deriving some insights out of their data that they already have. And I think it is improving over a period of years, where managers, developers, CXOs, everybody is kind of registering for these courses with these premium institutes to kind of enhance their knowledge on AI. And one of the topic for of course today is on the improving customer experience. And when I want to speak about it, I think the first thing comes to my mind is the services industry is very important to deal with experience of the customer, because it is never like, a customer is one time, right? Probably for large things it is okay, but for retail industries or for any kind of services based industry, repeated customers are very, very important, and repeated customers do come only if they get a good experience out of the business. And today I'm just thinking probably we should discuss some of the interesting use cases in the business side. Typically, like, you are enhancing the in-store customer experience, which is like, how do I enhance when the customer is coming to a brick and mortar kind of a store? How do I improve his experience so that he keeps coming to the store very frequently and then becomes a regular customer? What is your view, Krish, on this?
Yeah, it's a interesting topic. Actually, there is a lot being done currently on the on that front. But I'm just going to focus on a couple of things which I think is pretty cool. Someone was just mentioning, like the other day, how there are smart mirrors now in shops. Basically, you have let's say a brown jacket, put it on before a smart mirror. It kind of looks at you as in image or recognition, and it recognizes you have this brown jacket, and it says maybe you should also have this
for your skin tone, you need a better
shawl,
color.
or maybe have a sunglass or whatever it is. So that's pretty cool. Meaning that's an AI where it goes through the person as a persona, and then looking at your choice and making these recommendations based on the AI that is gathered. That's one cool example. So think of if you walk into a store, how many times you want to go get something and then you realize it's out of stock, right?
Yeah.
I tried last week.
Yeah, it happens to me.
Last week I wanted to get a butterfly wing or something, and then they said no, it's not Halloween time or whatever, so it was not in stock. So what I'm talking here is, again, I spoke about range and all this. Based on data, historical data, it could be purchases, could be seasonality, it could be weather, it could be any slice and dice of data that you feed into an AI model. It can actually tell you what to place when you're placing. There's something called phasing, by the way, in a store.
Yeah.
And which project should be on a phasing,
Yes.
and what's the where it should be placed given the map of the store and all that. All that is where AI comes into play as well. Again, these are something I think are evolving. There are obviously several others. Recently, there was a restaurant company where there are some smart boards, like smart menu boards. So it will give you suggestions based on the time of the day. Right?
Yeah.
Real-time smart suggestions, AI driven.
Yeah.
So I think there is plenty of opportunity. I think it's all up to our imagination how we can actually deploy AI to the benefit of in-store customer experience.
Yeah, so especially onto the point that you mentioned, if you feed in the data of the dynamics of the shop,
correct,
how many floors you have, how many departments you're going to deal with, what kind of products you're going to deal with, and over a period of time, I think the AI can certainly give you a right recommendation based on seasonality, based on weather, based on a World Cup, on football World Cup, or be it a cricket, or it could be a baseball. So depending upon this the sports events, it can also recommend which products are going to be frequently procured by customers, and then you can keep them in the front or an easy access, so that it improves your business in a lot better way. Other interesting use case that I remembered was chatbots to improve your customer service. Basically to see most of these machine chatbots are interfacing first level to the customers, be it a website or even be it your phone call that you make to a bank or to a retail industry. You dial, so most of the initial things to divert to the right department, chatbots helps in a pretty large way. And what is the amount of AI do you see and the potential opportunities that you see, chatbot improving the customer experience, Krish?
Yeah, I think we've come a long way, chatbots, because it's been around for be 7-8 years now.
Yes.
We have come a long way. Let's, instead of going through a content of a website, if it is a complex website, then that's a different story. A guided way to kind of order your products, go through what is being offered in the website is one great use case. But again, as I said, we have come a long way. There is way back, I think for some 4-5 years back, they used as a deep learning neural networks. There's
Yes.
something called RNN,
CNN.
recurrent neural network. What happened is it did not. I'll say it did not come up with desired results. Actually, they had to pull the chatbot down. But since then, we have come a long way. All I'm trying to say here is we should not see this as a cost saving effort. We should not see this as, hey, I'm going to save costs. It should be more part of our digital transformation.
Mm-hmm.
As part of our digital transformation, AI and how chatbots is going to help us, again, improve the customer experience. So I think that should be our focal point. Cost savings, all that will come later. But as long as it's part of your customer experience program, which in my head, I would project it as it's an enterprise digital transformation effort. And as part of my enterprise digital transformation effort, I'm actually launching a chatbot experience, a chatbot technology, which will actually enhance the customer experience.
Yeah. So if the same customer is repeatedly calling for the same problem, I think when the customer experience agent or the service agent who picks up the phone call or even to answer the chatbot, I think when he or she answers the phone, it should immediately kind of say, you're calling for the same problem almost a third time. So this will kind of ease down the situation when the customer is actually frustrated because he's calling for the same, problem statement again and again. And also by the machine learning over a period of time, even the historical problems and what kind of resolutions were given, I think that's going to play a very, a vital role, because the AI is going to pick up these words and keywords, go and search in the knowledge repository, pull what kind of tickets which were raised by earlier customers and what kind of resolution was given, and which comes as a dashboard to the service agent. I think they can handle the customer a lot more better than saying that, okay, we'll check on this and then get back to you, and you will have in fact on the hand answers to kind of manage that situation at that point in time. How analytics or AI can effectively improve supply chain management. If you have a proper demand forecasting application, certainly the organizations can do a proper supply chain, supply planning, stocking the right products at the right place at the right time. You can plan your logistics properly. I think the whole amount of supply chain with regards to the services industry specifically, I strongly believe AI plays a very vital role there, even to kind of your barcode scanners, right, which kinds of tells you how much of stock you have left, and then it kind of tell you what kind of products goes in which regions and which are the products which keep getting frequently returned, and is it of bad quality or is it something to do with the bad service provided by a particular dealer at that particular country. So it can give different statistics, and I'm sure AI is playing a very pivotal role in improving customer experience. But all these activities, especially in the supply chain, so-called supply chain, which is very big in the terminology itself, happens in the back end, and most of it doesn't get felt by an end user. But whatever the organizations invest in improving this particular supply chain area is going to result in improved customer experience, Krish. And I think I strongly recommend every large enterprises who are dealing with either retail or food and beverages or with any kind of services should have an effective supply chain management, so that they can predict and then kind of do a proper service to their end customers. Do you have any other interesting use case in your mind, Krish?
Yeah, I mean, there is one thing that always pops in everyone's mind is predictive personalization, right? As you know, with this website or any place where you can personalize someone's experience
Yeah.
based on their past history, as
Yeah.
an example. How many times you visited a website, they show you a product which you really don't want to buy. But
Yeah.
that's the challenge, to actually find the right match. As a matter of fact, for example, if I buy an Archie comics, every time there's a new Archie comics release, I get a recommendation, which is kind of cool. But I think the more intelligence we can get, again using past transaction. If you're a new user, there's no past transaction, by the way. Then you look for like-minded folks,
Yeah.
creating personas, and then you then fit into one particular persona group, and then make some recommendations. Pretty common, I think, is predictive personalization. But again, I think it should be done right, because sometimes you would upset people. There are some products which you'll buy just once a year. Let's say I'm looking for a refrigerator, right? And I bought it. But next time, if I go to the website, if they're going to show me again refrigerator, I'll be scratching my head. Why would I buy
Yeah.
something which I bought? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Till it breaks down.
Yeah.
God forbid it doesn't break down for the next decade or so, I wouldn't be buying it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a great opportunity, but I think there is some work needs to be done there to kind of hit that precise recommendation algorithm. I think that's a nice use case.
Manufacturers, in fact, find it very, very important because the case of the refrigerator that you picked up, right? And these mechanical instruments or electronic equipments, when they go for a service, right, and you need to have the right spares at the right time. And as I said, the logistics and the supply chain plays a very vital role, because you might have purchased that product at your city, and then the product is going to be coming for service in that city where you live in. And you need to have the right spares at the right time. That's going to play a very vital role, because selling is always easy, but providing service after the post sales, and then providing the right warranty, keeping the customer intact in terms of when they need the right spare parts are available at the right time, at the right location, so that the entire customer journey of the product and the subsequent services can be effectively managed. I think AI again has a very classic role to play in the after sales. This in fact applies to many of the services and the retail, or even be it a product based industries, where once the product is sold, is again the relationship doesn't get stopped there. The relationship gets continued, and the more they get a good quality service, they're going to get recommending that product to their neighbors, to their friends, their relatives, and that's going to add more brand image at the end of it. So Krish, to sum it up, what is your kind of point of view to the viewers today with regards to, we have spoken of quite a few topics in terms of how and where and when the journey of AI one should look at, and we spoke about so many things. How do you want to sum it up, and how do you want to kind of conclude? What are the key things that the viewers should consider if they have to go for such a implementation?
Yeah, we started with defining AI. We started with how you should approach AI from a program strategy. We also saw some key use cases. So it sounds pretty exciting, right? The world of AI.
Yeah.
So deploying AI everywhere. But there are also some concerns, the ethical concerns of using AI. Facial recognition is a place where there are some ethical questions. There is also privacy concerns. There is security concerns, as an example, right? So there are some. It's not a technology that you would deploy without any thought. Certainly touches people's lives. You're collecting some personal information. You need to keep your data secure. So I would make sure that the data that you collect, it's all this security standards, in transit encryption, encryption at rest. Make sure that you get a third-party vendor do a security test like a pen test, penetration test. Get an external audit. Cloud-based systems, they by the very nature they have some good amount of security. So I think we should take security pretty seriously and then review the standards every now and then. So that's one thing that I would advise. Then on the obviously on the privacy side, there is GDPR, Europe, there is CCPA, Consumer Protection Act, California. So there are obviously everyone is keenly watching how this data is being used.
Yeah.
I think to be truthful, we should only collect what is necessary, right? What is necessary and appropriate. And once we collect what is necessary, we should only use it in the where we intend to use it. So I think we have to be ethical in that approach, be transparent, take consent from people. A couple of years back, there was this facial recognition company, and then it turned out that they did not take anyone's consent. So I think we have to be transparent. After all, the intent is to make people's life better, not to get into any unethical practices. So I would really caution folks, though we don't mean it, but I think we have to practice it, across the enterprise, that we will only collect what is necessary and appropriate. And once we think we have collected something which is necessary, we only will use it for the purpose for which it was intended. And then, of course, make sure it's very tight, secure data, and then reap the benefits of AI.
Yeah. So even if you want to implement it on cloud, we can be rest assured that you can even anonymize the data.
That's right.
And then you can make sure that all the critical information like your passport number, your SSN number, etc., are kind of masked. And then you only do the AI on top of the critical information, as you rightly pointed out, and then get insights out of it. So the core information gets completely in the hidden at the back end.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, things like social security or email address, you don't need to even see someone's email address. So you only work with IDs, surrogate keys, not with actual attributes. No one needs to know someone's email ID. No one needs to know someone's
mobile
date
number.
of birth. As long as you identify using an ID, could be a surrogate key as an example.
Even could be a TCP/IP.
That's true.
Yeah. So if somebody is logging in from home, and there are 5 users from the same TCP/IP, so you can make recommendations based on that. You don't need to know who is actually doing it.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's a common practice to kind of handle all the data using an ID as opposed to actual data. Even IT folks need not see the consumer data. I think that is how we should
anonymize the data
from a customer privacy perspective. And again, you follow the rules, and then you enjoy the benefits of AI.
Thank you, viewers, for joining us today in this fireside chat to discuss various topics on how artificial intelligence, machine learning, or deep learning, analytics, natural language processing, and there are various techniques, right? And these techniques, how are they helpful for organization to improve their customer experience? I hope wherever you are in your AI journey, with some of the recommendations that were put forward, please make sure that we have the right technology and then the right strategy form, and then have a wonderful predictions and artificial intelligence implemented for your business to improve your customer experience. Thank you.